Your sprained ankle can also be a brain injury, and here's how. Gordon Waddington and Jeremy Weichels report. Have you ever thought of an ankle sprain as a brain injury? Most people probably would not. However, we're starting to understand how the brain is constantly adapting, known as plasticity. Even though the damage of an ankle sprain happens at the ankle, there may also be some changes going on in the brain to how well it senses pain or movement. One of our doctoral students, Ashley Marchant, has shown something similar happens when you change how much weight or load we put on the muscles of the lower limb. The closer the load is to the normal Earth gravity, the more accurate the movement sense is. The lower the muscle load, the less accurate we get. And this work means that we need to rethink how the brain controls and responds to movement. Solving the important puzzle. Historically, movement science has attempted to improve muscle function through resistance training, cardiovascular exercise, and flexibility. One of the big issues in the treatment and prevention of sport injuries is that even when the sports medicine team feels an athlete is ready to return, the risk of a future injury remains twice to 8 times higher than if you'd never had an injury. And this means sports medicos have been missing something. Our work at the University of Canberra and the Australian Institute of Sports has targeted sensory input in an attempt to solve this puzzle. The goal has been to assess the ability of sensory reception or perception aspect of movement control. Input sensory nerves outnumber output motor nerves by roughly 10 to 1. Over 20 years, scientists developed tools to allow us to determine the quality of the sensory input to the brain, which forms the basis of how well we can perceive movement. And gauging this input could be useful for everyone from astronauts to athletes and older people at risk of falls. We can now measure how well a person gets information from 3 critical input systems: the vestibular system, inner ear balance organs, the visual system, the pupil response to changing in light intensity, and the position sense system in the lower limbs, predominantly from sensors in the muscles and skin of the ankle and foot. This information allows us to build a picture of how well a person's brain is gathering movement information. It also indicates which of the 3 systems might benefit from additional rehabilitation or training. Lessons from space. You may have seen videos of astronauts, such as the ones on the International Space Station, moving around using only their arms and their legs dangling behind them. And this shows how when people leave Earth's gravity, they get minimal information to the sensory system from the skin and muscles of their legs. The brain rapidly deactivates the connections it normally uses for controlling movement. This is okay while the astronaut is in space, but as soon as they need to stand or walk on the Earth or Moon surface, they are at greater risks of falls and injuries. Similar brain changes can be occurring for athletes due to changes in movement patterns after injury. For example, developing a limp after a leg injury means the brain is receiving very different movement information from the leg's movement patterns. With plasticity, this may mean the movement control pattern does not return to an optimum pre-injury status. As mentioned previously, a history of injury is the best predictor of future injury, and this suggests something changes in the athlete's movement control processes after injury, most likely in the brain, which extends beyond the time when the injured tissue has healed. Measures of how well an athlete perceives movement are associated with how well they go on to perform in a range of sports, so sensory awareness could also be a way to identify athletic talent early. In older people and in the context of preventing falls, poor scores on the same sensory input perception measures can predict later falls. And this might be due to reduced physical activity in some older people. This use it or lose it idea might show how brain connections for movement, perception, and control can degrade over time. Precise healthcare. New technologies to track sensory ability are part of a new direction in healthcare described as precision health. And precision health uses technologies and artificial intelligence to consider the range of factors such as their genetic makeup that affect a person's health and provide treatments designed specifically for them. Applying a precision health approach in the area of movement control could allow much more targeted rehabilitation for athletes, training for astronauts, and earlier falls prevention for older people. And this is from the conversation by Gordon Waddington, AIS Professor of Sports Medicine Research, University of Canberra, and Jeremy Wichalis, Associate Professor, Physiotherapy, University of Canberra, on Science Alert. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.